From this doctor's craziest statement,
nicotine is really good for you,
to this absurd claim,
The 4 things that I think are harmful for humans are vegetables.
here are 30 controversial medical advice, starting with why the hell is smoking good for you?
Nicotine is one of the best mitochondrial uncouplers there is. In fact, there's a UK study that I've cited that you're probably aware of, looking at 60,000 physicians. And the physicians who smoked had half the incidence of Parkinson's and dementia than the physicians who didn't smoke.
The data on nicotine specifically are pointing to the fact that nicotine can be protective against certain forms of cognitive impairment.
When you ingest nicotine, your blood pressure goes up, heart rate goes up, and yet your body is somewhat relaxed. Interestingly, this makes it ideal for our cognitive work. But then, why are doctors so against it then?
And the reason for that is it's going to create a scenario of nicotine dependence in order to achieve heightened levels of mood and alertness, etc. And that's bad.
But that's not all. Nicotine will shrink your penis.
That's right, smoking and vaping reduces penis size.
But what's more important is anything that is inhaled damages our lung despite the substance, and that is why smoking is bad.
For every pack of cigarettes smoked per day, we can reliably estimate a 14-year reduction in lifespan.
But this is just one of 30 controversial claims. Like, some doctors think cancer is caused by vegetables.
I've seen so many times that people's autoimmune diseases, gut diseases, psychiatric illnesses get better when they get rid of vegetables.
So if eliminating vegetables is good, why do so many people recommend them? Well, it's because vegetables themselves aren't actually bad. It's just that people are eating them wrong. So here's 3 ways how you can eat them right. First, prioritize vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower over other options. This is because they fall into a type of vegetables that has a defense chemical that repels bugs, leading to less pesticides. Second, make sure to also steam your vegetables. By doing this, we kill most of the chemicals called oxalate, which would otherwise slowly destroy our kidneys. And third, avoid vegetables that have high water content like cucumber, lettuce, and spinach, as they absorb pesticides much faster than other vegetables. And no, these pesticides can't be washed away. And much like vegetables, 50% of doctor believes running is killing you.
Cardio, huge myth, no need to jog. Here's an interesting fact. The average lifespan of a marathon runner is about 57 years.
So we're actually going to run a marathon to test it out. Let's get to running.
So for the next 7 days, we'll track if we can reduce our resting heart rate and increase our HRV, which are key indicators for longevity. Alright, the first night, my whole bones felt like they were about to crumble, and my sleep reflected that. I had an 85 HRV, 63 resting heart rate. Definitely not good. But what happened over the next 2 to 3 days was crazy. On day number 2, I got 137 HRV, 53 resting heart rate, and on day number 3, I got 162 HRV and a 45 resting heart rate, which is really insane. But there's one huge factor we didn't put into consideration, which is age.
As you age, as the years go on, you age exponentially. In other words, from 20 to 40, it's not that bad. From 40 to 60, it gets a little bit harder. From 60 to 80, it gets even harder. From 80 to 100, forget it. It's exponential.
Simply put, as we age, our exercise capacity decreases, our bones get weaker. Therefore, while marathon might be healthy for us in our 20s, 40s, once we reach our 50s and beyond, we can't 100% guarantee that. But we gotta talk about this next device. Like, some experts say sunscreen is poisoning our brain.
There are compounds that exist in commercial products, not just sunscreen, that can cross the blood-brain barrier and that are bad for neurons.
This is because our skincare products have 3 poisonous chemicals that absorbs into our body.
There are absorption concerns with oxybenzone, octinoxate, and avobenzone because they can remain on the skin and in the blood for weeks.
But we also know that sunscreen prevents skin cancer, and as a matter of fact, here are the consequences of not using sunscreen.
Your aging will be faster.
A little faster. You may get a little dehydrated, a little inflamed, more than the person who's nicely using a sunscreen regularly.
So sunscreen is a must-have, and everything will make sense in just a moment.
That I follow. One is I use a mineral-based sunscreen. It is less likely to be absorbed through the skin. It has UVA and UVB protection.
Mineral-based sunscreen uses safer chemicals.
And those are zinc oxide and titanium dioxide up to a 25% concentration.
The crucial reason why we want to limit these chemicals to 25% is due to the following.
The ingredient titanium dioxide. There is some emerging evidence that it passes the blood-brain barrier, which can be accumulated in the brain.
So the research is unclear with sunscreen, and the current science says use a mineral-based sunscreen. But what about organic foods? There's a 50% split between doctors who says you need organic foods versus it's okay not to eat organic. But before all that, what do we even mean when we say a food is organic?
The key things about organic food are that it doesn't contain antibiotics, doesn't contain any pesticides or herbicides, and also the third thing is it doesn't include any artificial fertilizers.
On top of that, several studies found that organic foods contain more antioxidants, high concentrations of vitamin C, and omega-3 fatty acids. But the real reason you want organic foods is due to the pesticides. Now the good news here is you don't need to buy organic for every single produce.
But those, they have a hard outer shell and you're usually good to go and don't need to spend the money on going organic with that.
But here are the 3 categories of food you must buy in organic. First, oats, because pesticides are sprayed just before they're harvested and dried out. Second, fruits and vegetables with a lot of water.
Cucumbers, pears, nectarines, these tend to have high concentrations.
And third, rice.
Do a problem with runoff of arsenic into rice paddy fields, so you may be ingesting a lot of chemicals.
But that's not the only controversial claim related with chemicals, as there's a 50% split between doctors saying artificial sweeteners are good for you.
The more sugar you put in, the better it tastes to a point. So put as much as you want, just keep loading it up. Don't worry, it's not gonna kill you, it's not gonna give you cancer, just load it up.
So if artificial sweeteners don't cause cancer, why are so many doctors against them? Well, it's because it disturbs your gut and brain in many ways.
A tiny packet of a sweetener is super sweet. Our brain gets used to this hyper sweetened taste.
Meaning the more artificial sweeteners we eat, the more addicted we get. But there's actually one effective alternative for those who have a sweet tooth. Raw honey actually helps our gut. It boosts our immune system, but also reduces the risk of heart attacks up to 19%. And much like artificial sweeteners, soy products have also been controversial, especially among men.
Soy is estrogenic, it's something people should avoid.
So soy contains estrogen. This fact generates fear among men. Am I getting man boobs? Is my testosterone okay? Am I losing my gains? Hell no. But in reality, doctors say soy products have the most benefits to men.
Men who consume the most soy have about 29% less risk of prostate cancer compared to men who are really neglecting their soy.
And much like soy products, many types of diets have been proven to cure cancer and make you an optimal human being. But there's been constant fights over which diet is the best. To start out, let's break down the 4 most optimal diet health experts promote: keto, carnivore, paleo, and the bodybuilding diet. Starting with the keto diet, keto has been one of the most effective methods to cure and prevent cancer. It's a carb elimination diet, and by eliminating carbs, we starve cancer cells because our cancer cells need sugar and carbs to grow. But at the same time, because it's an elimination diet, the sustainability of maintaining keto and doing keto the wrong way have been a huge problem. Even Andrew Huberman made a catastrophic mistake when he did a keto diet that led to brain damage.
I tried it once and I basically got psoriasis. I thought my scalp was going to fall off. I was like sloughing off all this. And then I stopped and I was taking the liquid ketones. And then all of a sudden I felt better again.
Fortunately, we're doing keto wrong for one of 3 reasons. 1, eating the wrong fats. We want to eat foods like avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, and fatty fish, and not fats from seed oils, bacon, or processed foods. Second, neglecting micronutrients and fiber. Nutrient deficiencies, including magnesium, potassium, and vitamin C, is pretty common, so we want to make sure we eat our vegetables or use a supplement to eliminate the deficiencies. And third, get your electrolytes. When we're doing keto, it's really common we don't take enough sodium in our diet. This leads to side effects like the keto flu, so to prevent learned that drink bone broths, use electrolytes to make sure you get adequate sodium intake. But much like keto, the second form of diet health experts promote is another extreme elimination diet, the carnivore diet.
To get to the bottom of which foods are triggering their gut issues, it's helped a lot of people lose weight and feel massively better overall.
But there's a couple side effects that even made Dr. Paul Saladino, who even wrote a book about how great carnivore diet is, stop carnivore diet altogether.
This led to muscle cramps, I had problems with sleep, I had heart palpitations, fluttering of my heart.
While in some cases, extreme elimination diet helps us cure autoimmune diseases, in the long run, it seemed like it led to nutrient deficiencies.
The solution for me was adding back carbohydrates.
Which leads us to our next diet, the paleo diet. The paleo diet is a diet contained with meat, fish, fruits, and vegetables, while avoiding any processed foods, grains, and dairy. I'm personally closest to the paleo diet, and the benefits I got from it is crazy. Like, I used to have pollen allergies, so my eyes would get red, I would have bloody nose every day. But ever since I switched to paleo, everything went away. And on top of that, you get to eat delicious meals all the time because it's a well-balanced diet. And because it's also well-balanced, you don't need to take as much supplements because you could get your micronutrients from your food. And last, we have the bodybuilding diet, a low-fat, high-protein, moderate-carb diet depending if you're on a bulk or a cut. While this is the most optimal diet to gain muscle, the biggest problem we often face is we use processed foods to fill in our macros because getting a low-fat while having a high-protein diet is hard to get just from natural food sources. And as a result, we look healthy on the outside, but our gut, brain, and cells get poisoned over time, leading to cancer. But on top of that, it actually kills our testosterone because by eliminating fat, we're not getting enough proper nutrients for our growth hormones. So for now, I think it's best to identify our goals, take a food intolerance test, and test out different diets to see what matches best for you, and ignore the controversy. But talking about controversy, is dairy a superfood or is it actually killing us? From dairy being the biggest superfood ever,
dairy actually has an anti-inflammatory effect rather than pro-inflammatory,
to dairy being the biggest poison in the world.
Internet research led her to raw milk. 3 weeks later, Chris was on a ventilator, undergoing kidney dialysis, and had developed pancreatitis.
So dairy products themselves aren't actually bad. It's just that some dairy products that we know go through these processes that poisons our body. Like Dr. Grundy says that this substance called casein A1 from regular milk is actually killing us.
It contains the wrong protein called casein A1. Casein A1 is an inflammatory protein.
But fortunately, there's 3 dairy products we can eat. First, choosing raw milk over pasteurized milk.
And you can see the raw milk compared to the pasteurized milks is the only milk that did not develop mold and fungus. This is because raw milk contains many naturally occurring bioactive components.
This applies to yogurt as well. And the second, we have kefir milk. And third, Parmesan Reggiano. And much like dairy being controversial, this doctor says psychedelics is actually boosting your health.
Low doses, very low doses of LSD taken once every 3 or 4 days can improve cognition and mood and creativity.
If someone told you that, you probably think they're crazy. So the question is, should you microdose psychedelics? Although there are studies that's promising
that appropriate dosages of psilocybin can alleviate major depression in more than 67% of people that take the drug.
It is true a lot more research needs to be done because psychedelics in a way do cause hallucinations. However, I do find it a little weird how more poisonous substances like alcohol or smoking is legal, while psychedelics that might help our mental health are all illegal altogether. But again, it might be best to be cautious, just like how we should be cautious about doctor-prescribed medicine.
Medications could help, but at the same time, if not taken properly, could cause harm.
Unfortunately, a lot of money is made in medicine, and because of that, the healthcare system will overprescribe you and poison the patients. Fortunately, there's only 2 major areas doctors tend to overprescribe. First, avoid antidepressant pills or ADHD pills at all costs. They are not solutions. They are designed to make you addicted and dependent on them. And number 2, unless it's very severe, don't ever take painkillers or fever-reducing pills.
When people get a fever,
they automatically want to get rid of this fever. And that is a big mistake.
When you're sick, you actually don't want your fever to go down because that's your immune system fighting. Instead, we want to go on a water fast and starve the bacteria that's trying to attack our body. Wrongly prescribed medication can place your health in serious risk. This is the same argument many people make against eating meat.
Red meat is definitely it's the target of propagandists.
From meat being the most poisonous food in the world,
So multiple studies have shown that red meat can hurt your overall health.
to people only eating meat to cure their cancer,
I was able to reverse every health problem I ever had by switching to a mostly plant diet, sort of a low-fat diet that most of us were told was healthy, to a meat-based ketogenic diet.
meat has been one of the most controversial foods on the planet. But if meat is so good for our health, why are so many people against them?
We traditionally have thought we need to stay away from red meat because of the saturated fat that's contained in animal products that can put up our cholesterol and increase our cardiovascular risk.
Simply put, the answer is meat itself isn't poisonous at all. It's just that people are eating meat the wrong way. Fortunately, there's two simple ways you can eat meat to reduce cancer risk up to 50%. First, choose grass-fed meat. This not only reduces your risk of heart disease, you actually get minerals like zinc and iron from the fat of the meat. And second, start cooking your meat using low temperature methods like steaming, sauteing, or stewing.
And the way you prepare your meat is important as well. High temperature cooking like grilling, frying, smoking, or charring all the meat actually causes problems.
Meat is often unfairly linked to cancer, but did you know that a growing number of vegans are developing cancer as well?
So it seems like there is a spike going on, at least from what I've become aware of, people following a healthy plant-based diet and getting a cancer diagnosis.
Vegan diet is notoriously getting a bad reputation, and just like any elimination diet, if you're not supplementing properly, it is extremely dangerous. But why do people say it causes cancer? The problem isn't so much with going vegan, but the lack of variety which causes people to eat foods with little to no nutrition like donuts, cakes, and fake meat. But longevity experts like Brian Johnson does a vegan diet, and here are 3 key rules if you're planning to stay vegan. First, get enough protein.
You have to make sure that you get a full range of the type of protein that you're actually going to need.
Second, take supplements.
You have to take supplements to supplement the things you're not getting from eating meat.
And third, avoid processed foods.
The more like natural whole ingredients that you can be eating, whether that's like whole grains or fruits and vegetables and pulses, the better.
Of course, the main reason why people do vegan is for ethical issues as well, and sometimes even losing weight. But another equally effective way to shed unwanted pounds is by intermittent fasting, from doubling your risk of getting a heart attack.
Staying for 16 hours or more every day, in their words, significantly increase the risk of some kind of a heart disease related death.
To extending your lifespan.
That time-restricted feeding reduced body weight and increased lifespan.
It's hard to know what to believe when it comes to intermittent fasting. Is it actually helping us? Is it killing us? The truth is, intermittent fasting works effectively, but most people do it wrong. And here's 3 easy ways to get the benefits of intermittent fasting without the side effects. First, plan your fasting wisely so it works for you.
Just set a window of when you can eat. So for example, I'm not going to eat any food after 8 p.m. and then I'll start eating at noon the next day.
Second, eat healthier foods when you do intermittent fasting.
Focus on eating unprocessed food. You're going to have way more success if you eat unprocessed foods.
Third, avoid eating late at night.
Eating late at night is putting millions of people in danger of heart attacks and strokes.
Intermittent fasting basically fools your body into working more efficiently, which is also the basic principle behind the detox diet.
Demand has driven the value of the detox product market to about $51 billion.
Detox dieting and juice cleansing are quick and easy ways to get rid of toxins in the body. But are detoxing and juice cleansing actually effective? Or are they just scams to get people's money? It really depends on your current state. If you're really healthy, you probably don't need a juice cleansing, but say for instance, if you're coming back from a travel like me, or if you just want to fix a bad gut, juice cleansing or detoxing is probably the best way to go about it. Like studies say, a 3-day vegetable fruit juice-based diet induced significant changes in the microbiota. Basically, think of it as resetting your gut. But most people go about it the wrong ways. So here's 3 key ways to maximize your benefits if you decide to go on a juice cleanse. First, don't starve yourself. While we're cleansing our gut, we still want to hydrate and get the micronutrients that will help us heal our gut. Second, eat more foods that are proven to cleanse your gut.
Celery is huge in terms of the minerals. Cucumber is super hydrating, cleansing for the kidneys. Celery cleanses your gut.
And third, add bone broths to your diet.
There is a bone broth, but if you're vegan, you can do a vegan broth.
Detoxing and juicing are often criticized as scam, but they actually make sense. But can we say the same with GMO foods?
Demand has driven the value of the detox product market to about $51 billion.
And the people aren't wrong. GMO foods are poisonous because GMO crops are engineered to be herbicide resistant, leading to increased herbicide usage. And on top of that, it creates new allergens that trigger allergic reactions in some people. So if possible, avoid processed foods and GMO and try and get organic foods. GMOs basically improve common foods to make them bigger, better, and less prone to disease. Testosterone replacement therapy also works the same way, except that it's mainly applied on humans.
Time and feeling kind of depressed, when they start TRT, they feel better, they feel youthful, they feel the vigor.
A lot of influencers have been sharing their experiences with taking testosterone.
What's your experience been on TRT?
Immediately, I got the energy of my 20s. I've probably gained more muscle. What I do notice is easier for me to stay like ripped.
While kudos for being honest, the normalization of testosterone have been getting worse, with doctors increasingly prescribing it to those who don't truly need it. And there's a very dark side behind taking testosterone.
Men who were started on testosterone therapy had a higher risk of death, heart attack, and stroke.
I cannot produce testosterone naturally, and I was unable to recover.
The truth is, most people don't actually need testosterone. While it's impossible to achieve top elite bodybuilding level physiques, you can get your testosterone to extreme levels naturally by focusing on these 3 bottlenecks. First, control stress. Most people don't realize that the opposite of testosterone isn't estrogen, but actually stress. The most effective way to eliminate stress is sleeping longer hours.
Is getting enough sleep. Right. But it seems to be one of the first ones that we ignore, especially if we live a busy life.
Second, avoid endocrine disruptors.
When we talk about endocrine disruptors, we're talking about chemicals that mostly interfere with your body's natural production of testosterone.
So throw away your plasticware and Teflon frying pans and use glass and steel cookingware. Third, keep your body fat at healthy levels, not too low, but also not too high. Keeping your body fat around 10 to 15% is ideal. Body fat is one of the most important metrics to measure. However, the healthcare system seems to use BMI to determine your health, which has been getting a lot of heat behind it. Is it an accurate way to measure health?
As BMI has become more widely used in healthcare, it's received more and more criticism. BMI critics include doctors, patients, public health experts, fat acceptance groups, bodybuilders, and more. Some people want to kick BMI to the curb, while others just want to see it used less.
Well, according to the longevity power law, BMI is one of 5 rules for longevity.
And then 3 is a BMI between 18.5 and 22.5.
But why is BMI getting so much hate?
One of the biggest problems about this BMI is that it doesn't tell you how much fat you have versus muscle.
What this means is that you can be considered clinically obese if your BMI is 30 or higher, even if your weight is mostly muscle.
If BMI is so flawed, why don't we just stop using it? Well, currently, we don't have a better replacement that's widely available. Even with its limitations, BMI can be effective for population health.
But much like BMI, ADHD has been clinically wrong.
Of course ADHD is overdiagnosed.
Many experts argue that we're turning perfectly healthy people into patients.
Critics argue that by diagnosing ADHD, we're turning a child's natural energy or an adult's occasional restlessness into a medical issue.
Interestingly, studies say a certain degree of ADHD is great for your productivity, especially for the people who do creative work.
The ability to come up with a wide variety of ideas from a single starting point is a critical component of creativity. And people with ADHD, whose minds go all over the fucking map, are really good at divergent thinking.
Now, of course you'll need laser focus for certain tasks, and here are 3 easy action steps you can take if you're struggling with focus. First, get 8 to 9 hours of quality sleep. Second, make sure to eat the right foods and avoid processed foods. And third, do cardio exercises regularly to increase the flow of brain to the brain. Much like ADHD being misled by health experts, seed oils are also misrepresented.
Seed oils are one of the most unhealthy ingredients that we have in foods. And
according to RFK, seed oils are everywhere because they're cheap. But why is it poisonous to humans? Well, if you take canola oil, for example, it starts with the seed of a rape plant, which is a toxic bomb itself. But in order to make the oil, these seeds are grounded at high temperature to extract fragile oil, which inevitably turns black. So this oil has to be washed with solvents like hexane, a known neurological toxin. Then it gets bleached and deodorized so it doesn't smell bad like it really is, and voila! Do you truly want to drink this? The good news is that there are 3 safer oils you can use: cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil. If you've been eating seed oils for many years, you probably have a number of health issues that needs to be addressed. And some people say grounding will help you, but does it actually do anything?
So today I'm talking about grounding, earthing, actually changing the pH of the blood by coming in contact with Mother Earth.
Grounding techniques bring your awareness back to the present moment where you are safe. It's like getting your bearings and refocusing.
So the first benefit of grounding is that this process reduces inflammation within your body and therefore reduces pain.
So many experts claim that grounding reduces inflammation, heal your injuries, focus longer, and the technique behind it is so simple. Touching the earth with your bare feet for 10 to 15 minutes, or buy a PEMF mat or grounding bed sheets. Now, is it just a marketing scam? Well, one study shows an injured person, and after sleeping grounded for 4 nights, it shows the pain and the hot areas cooled a lot faster than the ungrounded sleeping group. While grounding might be beneficial, I'm still at the belief it's not one of the core bottlenecks we have to prioritize for health, because we have very limited amount of data and there are better things we could focus on, like sleep, exercise, and diet. And just like grounding, does sauna and cold plunge actually boost your health? Or is it just another marketing tool? Well, from it being the biggest health hack in the world,
that up to 30 minutes in the sauna was healthy and you lower your risk of cardiovascular disease,
to claims that they're useless.
There was no improvement, 0 improvement in the cold water immersion group. It did not help them recover faster versus just sitting down in regular temperature.
Studies show that sauna or cold plunges aren't actually effective for recovery, but actually doing the opposite.
Heat and cold does not promote recovery.
Not in any way that helps the tissues fix themselves faster. Absolutely not. There's no evidence that whatsoever. And the evidence is actually contrary to that. It delays that process.
There's also a risk of serious health problems for some people.
People die in the sauna, and passing out due to low blood pressure, burns from the sauna, dehydration, risk of arrhythmia, heart attack, other cardiovascular issues. I think those are all unlikely, but real.
The key point is identifying why we're doing sauna or cold plunge. If it's due to social aspects, mental resilience, having a mood boost, I believe those are valid reasons. While if you're doing sauna and cold plunge for longevity or anti-aging, it might not be the best reason to do it. With that being said, health trackers will be a great way to track the effectiveness, but some doctors think health trackers are useless.
People with an activity tracker were slightly more active than people without, but there were no improvements in their overall fitness level and no changes in their weight or blood pressure.
But I disagree. We try to make more money because we track it. Olympic runners track time to get faster. Our health is the most important asset that we have, and yet we don't even track it. What can't be measured cannot be improved. You might think you're doing something healthy because of a video or an article you read, but you won't actually know unless you're tracking them. One example is air quality. Many marketers, health experts advertise air purifiers, but most of us probably don't need an air purifier. At least when I tracked my air quality, the actual problem was not the air quality itself, but the carbon dioxide level. And no matter how great the air purifier was, it did not lower carbon dioxide. For context, for every 500 ppm increase in carbon dioxide, your response time goes down by 1.4 to 1.8% and your throughput lowers by 2.1 to 2.4%. CO2 levels in my house were around 1500 to 2000 ppm, but simply by opening a window for 10 minutes, CO2 went down to 300 to 500 ppm, which means that by opening the window twice a day, I can actually get a 15% boost in my intelligence. But I was only able to learn that after I started measuring. not by reading or watching a video, and much like health trackers, melatonin for sleep have been extremely controversial. Melatonin is marketed as the ultimate sleep aid. Even Brian Johnson uses melatonin.
Before bed, I take DHEA and my melatonin supplement.
But there are many health experts saying they're poisonous.
I am not a fan of melatonin for enhancing the transition to sleep for a couple of reasons. One, dosages of melatonin are far too high in most supplements. Melatonin can have some negative effects on the sex steroid hormones, testosterone and estrogen. That's a serious concern. Third, melatonin's role during puberty or around puberty is to suppress the onset of puberty. So that's concerning.
Fortunately, there's 3 ways to increase your melatonin production naturally without taking the pills. First, morning sun when you wake up. Second, eating tart cherries. Tart cherries have shown to have the substance called tryptophan, which the body converts into melatonin. And third, make your room dark and cold. Some people believe that no dose of melatonin is safe, just like sodium, but is sodium actually bad?
For your entire life, you've been told to limit your salt intake, to avoid salt, to try to eat a low salt diet. Turns out a lot of us were listening, and now we're suffering from daily symptoms from just not getting enough salt.
While there are many studies of the dangers of too much sodium, the reality is that the ideal sodium intake for everyone depends on the level of exercise they get that day. Fortunately, there are 2 things you can do if you're still worried about your sodium levels. First, get more potassium in your diet.
You can achieve that by keeping your sodium to potassium ratio balanced.
Second, get your sodium from whole foods and sea salt instead of processed foods.
Moderating your intake of canned and prepackaged types of foods, not going overboard on high sodium fast food types of meals.
Much like sodium, caloric restriction has been controversial between some saying it will make you fragile and weak, while some say it's the secret to longevity.
You can see the flies in dietary section for about 30 days are way more active than the flies that are being on a rich diet.
On top of that, caloric restriction will prevent us from catastrophic disease.
That severe caloric restriction will absolutely reduce the risk of most chronic diseases.
But on top of losing more muscle mass, there's a darker side behind caloric restriction.
Their risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, Alzheimer's disease would go down. The problem is what things go up. What does that do to your immune system? What does that do with respect to sarcopenia? What does that do to your risk of falling?
So if you're considering caloric restriction, here are 2 things you must do to minimize these side effects. First, get enough protein in your healthy fats. Caloric restriction makes it more likely that your body will break down muscle tissues for energy, so don't hesitate to consume extra protein to protect muscle mass. And healthy fats is a must-have if you want your growth hormones to be balanced. Second, eat earlier during the day. This will give your body enough time to digest your food properly so you get the full nutritional benefits. Now, if you're wondering what foods you should eat for caloric restriction, click on this video where I cook 15 low-calorie healthy meals. I'll see you in the next one.